All right, let's just jump right in. We're all trying to build that rock-solid, unshakable self-trust, right? But what if I told you that one of the most common ways to do that is actually rejected by some of the most driven, successful people on the planet? Yeah, we're about to unpack a really fascinating paradox that's hidden in data from all over the world.
So think about this practice for a second. You record a private voice memo, just talking about your dreams or your fears. Nobody else ever has to hear it. Is that a powerful tool for self-awareness, something that really builds your confidence? Or is it just a total waste of time, kind of unproductive navel-gazing? Well, the answer, as it turns out, reveals this deep psychological split.
And it all starts with this number right here, negative 0.1877. I know, right now it's just a number on a screen. But you gotta see this as a clue. It's a statistically significant negative correlation, and it tells this surprising story about who exactly rejects that voice memo idea, and even more importantly, why they do.
So where does a number like this even come from? Well, this isn't from some tiny little survey. It's from a study of 227 people across 47 different countries. And what that negative correlation means is pretty stark. The more somebody values achievement, efficiency, and taking strategic action, the less likely they are to think recording a voice memo about their feelings is a good way to build self-trust. Now, to really get this, we need to understand the mindset at the very heart of our story. In this model of human values called spiral dynamics, this is known as the orange stage. I want you to picture the classic entrepreneur, the high-powered executive, the super competitive athlete. Their entire world revolves around strategic action, measurable progress, and of course, winning. It's the mindset that's built empires and driven so much innovation.
So how in the world does this mindset build self-trust? I mean, it's not that they don't want it. Of course they do. It's that their entire internal operating system is wired to build it in a completely different way. For them, trust isn't something you find by looking inward. It's something you forge through results.
Howard Schultz, the guy who built Starbucks into a global giant, he just nails the orange mindset with this quote. It's not about the brilliant idea in your head or the profound feeling in your gut. It's all about the tangible result. Self-trust doesn't come from a business plan. It comes from a successful launch.
And when you look at it like this, side by side, you really see the conflict, don't you? This is so much more than just a simple preference. It's a head-on collision of worldviews. For someone who is just wired for measurable, efficient action, the whole idea of unstructured reflection feels like you're slamming on the brakes. It's an unproductive detour off the road to victory. It's a delay, not development.
And really, this is the bottom line for this entire value system. Confidence isn't something you discover by looking inside yourself. It's a byproduct of doing things in the real world. It's forged in the fire of executed decisions and results that everyone can see. So if introspection doesn't lead to some kind of measurable advantage, it's just seen as a distraction. But here's where the plot thickens. Is this rejection of introspection actually a sign of superior efficiency? Or could it be a critical blind spot, a developmental limitation that has these hidden long-term costs? Because, the research on this is pretty clear. Systematically avoiding the emotional part of your life, well, it's not a winning strategy in the long run. It can actually undermine the very performance that the orange mindset values so much. It can lead straight to burnout, create really poor leaders, and leave you with an incomplete map of what actually motivates you and your team. And this just reframes the entire paradox for us. What that orange mindset might label as rational efficiency, skipping the feelings to get straight to the facts, might actually be a form of emotional avoidance. And that avoidance, it has very real, very measurable costs, both for the individuals and for the organizations they lead.
Okay, so up to now, we've been laser-focused on this one really interesting data point. But now we're going to zoom out, because that single correlation isn't just a fun fact for a dinner party. It's one piece of a much, much larger puzzle, a system that's designed not just to understand behavior, but that actually predict it. Just think about that for a second. Our little number, that negative 0.1877, is just one of over 13,000 correlations like it. Every single one is a tiny insight into how a specific mindset reacts to a specific idea. But when you start connecting all of them, you create this dynamic map of an organization's entire psychological landscape. It's pretty amazing. So let's see this predictive power in action. Imagine a really tough management call. To save the company money, everyone has to take a week of unpaid vacation.
Now, you'd think the reaction would be awful across the board, right? A total disaster for morale. But the data model, it tells a much more complicated story. Let's break down these wildly different reactions, because this is where it gets good. A team with a strong tribal or purple mindset, they actually see this positively. They see it as a shared sacrifice for the good of the group. But our orange achievers, oh, they see it as a huge negative. It's inefficient. It's a roadblock to their own progress. And then, fascinatingly, the communal green mindset also sees it as a positive, but for a totally different reason. It's an act of solidarity to save their colleagues' jobs.
And this right here is the crucial takeaway. The exact same action produces 3 completely different and predictable outcomes. The action itself is almost meaningless if you don't know the psychological profile of the people you're leading. Context, which you get from the data, is absolutely everything.
So what does all this mean for the future? Well, it signals a massive shift, from leadership being an art form based on gut instinct to management becoming more of a science, one that's driven by data. It's about making decisions based not just on what you think will work, but on what the data predicts will actually happen.
And this is the blueprint for how you actually apply it. First, you survey the landscape to measure things like fear and trust. Then you profile the team to map out that mix of value systems, orange, green, purple, and so on. Step 3, you decide what outcomes matter most. Is it all about profit, or is employee retention just as important? Then you model it. You simulate your decisions to predict all the ripple effects. And only then, after all that, do you actually act.
And this leads us to maybe the most provocative idea of all. You might think this whole data-driven thing sounds cold and calculating. But think about it this way. A single human manager can only ever see the world through their own biases, through their own value system. But a model that holds 13,000 correlations, it can see the world through everyone's eyes, all at once. What we're really talking about here is scalable empathy.
So, I'll just leave you with this final thought to chew on. If the psychological state of an entire company can be modeled, if the ripple effects of our decisions can be predicted, and if even something as human as empathy can be calculated, then what does it truly mean to lead in the 21st century?